I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, call this evening's meeting to order. First, we have recognition of our long-tenured city attorney, Lee Tutwiler. And Josh Brown's gonna go first. And then I will go, and then we'll let you have the floor if you want it. I know you do, because you're in charge.
All right. It is my privilege to recognize Lee Tutwiler, who has served with the distinction as city attorney for Paola since 1984. To put that into perspective, when Lee first started his job, Footloose was the #1 movie in theaters, and people were trying to figure out how to use the microwave oven. For over 4 decades, Lee has been the steady legal hand guiding our community through its most significant periods of growth and modernization. Lost my spot, sorry. From his work on the Paola Community Center land transfer to his oversight of the industrial park developments, his fingerprints have been on the very foundation of our city. His expertise is not merely local. As a member of the bar of the United States Supreme Court, as well as serving as the Kansas Board of Discipline for Attorneys. Lee brings a level of legal scholarship to our city hall that is truly rare for a community of our size. Of course, Lee's tenure is perhaps most felt in our municipal court. Having served as a city prosecutor for 42 years, he has achieved a unique kind of longevity. It is often said in legal circles that a good prosecutor is one who is respected by even those they oppose. In Lee's case, he has been around long enough that now he's prosecuting the children of some of his original defendants.
What's the criminal laws?
While those appearing before him on Thursday afternoons might not always be happy to see him, there is a profound community-wide respect for a man who has heard every possible excuse twice over and still approaches every case with the same unwavering commitment to the law that he had in 1984. Lee, thank you for the decades of dedication and for staying in Paola long enough to become a historical landmark.
I don't know who wrote that for you, but that was pretty good.
Good. Okay, first, it speaks very highly of you that your former city manager, city clerk are here. So that's very, very important to note. Lee, we go way back. Long before I was in this room, and I've been in this room for quite a while. And as Josh said, just to put it in more perspective, I was getting ready to start kindergarten when you became our city attorney. I've known you on both a personal level and a professional level. I know you didn't want a bunch of fuss over your retirement, but you deserve for us to send you off with some positive words and a simple thank you for your decades of service and dedication to the city of Paola. I know there have been times over the years that you directly stated or indirectly hinted that you were concerned that we didn't call you enough. I think you felt like the lack of communication from the governing body was not always a good sign, when in reality, it was a sign that you were doing your job. Although it would have been more exciting for you at times, thank you for helping keep the governing body outside the courtroom. You and I know more than most what that meant sometimes. Thank you for helping us navigate through some tough situations and for always being willing to take my calls when things did come up. Your wisdom, your advice, your experience, and your dedication to our city will be greatly missed. The positive impact you and Mary have made on our community has been and will continue to be felt and appreciated. And we have a small plaque to give to you. I mean, what do you say? You know, thank you so much for what you've done for the city and for us over these last 4 decades almost.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you can have the floor if you'd like to say anything.
Oh, yeah, you don't tell a lawyer that. I really did think about after that, just saying nothing, but probably can't let this chance pass. I do feel sorry for anybody that's in the audience because you wouldn't have known this was on the agenda. So now you're gonna have to sit through it, I guess. But I'll try to be as brief as I can to summarize. What did you say, 40? Somebody said, I don't know, 42 years, between 40 and 50, whatever it is. I know our wedding anniversary, I knew it was gonna be 50 years next year for the wedding anniversary, so. But you've got to kind of work backward on the city attorney stuff, so I think it's 42, that's enough. So, well, let me run through my deal as quick as I can for you. First of all, we've got some folks here I kind of want to introduce. I mean, I think everybody already knows my wife, Mary's here. Mary's here. Marcus is in the front row. Everybody came from California. They showed up the other night after dark, which is a little scary. Being the city prosecutor, you don't know who's really coming to see you after dark, or why. And the girls, then there's four of them, Marlo and Megan are ours, and then Megan's two daughters are here, Nora and Lydia. And so they showed up, kind of scared us to start with, but we got the kids in the house and all that. And then there was this deep voice outside. 30 minutes later, and here comes Marcus separate. But anyway, they all got here. Everybody's here. We got 3 out of the 4. Michael couldn't get away from the hospital, Dr. Michael in Palo Alto. So, but we're really, really appreciative that they made the effort to get here, fly all the way out here, drive down. And now they've got to go back. But it means a lot to us that they're here. With that introduction, let me jump right in. And I've been thinking about this a lot. And this isn't, I hope, I don't want it tomorrow all over town. What a jerk, all he did was talk about himself. This isn't about me. To me, I've tried to put this in terms of Paola. This is about Paola to me, okay? So with that in mind, take it with a grain of salt, because I'm not here to do that. That's already been done. I came after Bill Bright, and I'm going to go so far back here, but not everybody's going to know a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about, even though you're on the city council now. But Bill Bright was the previous city attorney from 1956 to 1993. Holy mackerel. So once I became city attorney, I think some of you know, I had this dream in mind of being city attorney longer than Bill Bright was, because it was so unusual, I found out, through the League of Municipalities and the City Attorney State Association and all that, how unusual it is with local politics and whatever to have somebody be a city attorney for 36 years like Bill was, or 37 years like Bill was. So I started in 1984 with in the back of my mind, I didn't tell everybody way back then, but as the years went by and I got closer and closer, I thought, I want to beat that record. It's just being competitive, I guess, or whatever. And so a couple of years ago, I had a little party and invited a few folks. And we celebrated that I'd been here longer than Bill Bright had. It wasn't any big deal to anybody but me, of course. And so I think now it's safe to say, with his 37 years and my 42 years, City of Paola has had continuity for 80 years as city attorney. And even as I sit here today, I look at all of you. City managers come and go, believe it or not. Police chiefs come and go. Council members come and go. And things change and it gets a little topsy-turvy, and there's chiefs change. But the city of Paola, I think, has been very fortunate to have long-term legal representation. I guess you would say it depends on which side of the fence you're on, whether that was good or bad. But Bill was here a long time, and I've been here even longer. So I think that's been good for the city. I think I really, really do, particularly when I see what other cities have gone through and they jump around and they have a new city attorney and they change everything or whatever. Now, being city attorney involves also being the city prosecutor, and they're two definitely distinct jobs. Very briefly, in case you don't know much about city court, looking at you, I don't think any of you have probably been there. We have about, just roughly, just for my purposes of example, about 20 cases a week. Obviously, there's some weeks with a lot more and there's some weeks with less, but for my purposes today, humor me, let's just go with 20 so I can do the math and you can follow along. And then there's 52 weeks in the year, take out a couple of weeks for Christmas and Easter or whatever. So 20 cases a week for 50 weeks a year is 1,000 cases a year. Right in here. For 42 years. That's 42,000 cases. I Googled today to get the current population of the city of Paola, and it's about the same as it has been. You can say basically 5,000. So what is that? You know, everybody in Paola's been through city court more than 8 times. And obviously they haven't been, but that city court's an active place. It's busy. And just in case none of you knew about city court, I just thought I'd give you some little statistical information about it. Okay, so in these 42 years, what have you been doing? Well, let me try to hit some of the highs and maybe 1 or 2 of the lows. But staying on city court for just a second, we weren't always in this beautiful room in this beautiful building. I started out upstairs in City Hall building, the old city council room up there. That's where court was. And then after that, we went to the basement in the cultural center. And that was fine. And then this building got built and we've been out here ever since. Still got better and better and better. But during all of those years, some things have changed that I'd just like to point out that also have gotten better for the city and for the city prosecutor. You know, we've been through some really tough times here. It hasn't just been Paola. We've been part of national trends. One was the posse comitatus. If any of you remember that. I mean, we had people that would not provide our own officers, their name. They wouldn't identify themselves. What do you do about that? I mean, it's pretty fundamental stuff. That's anarchy, right here in River City. Well, we put them in jail and that caused trouble too. But, you know, what do you do when push comes to shove? And speaking of shoving, this city court stuff, I don't know, you can probably he's starting to smile. It's almost like open combat. I mean, it's face to face. It's like right here. And that bench is over there and the witnesses get up there. The witnesses are normally officers or some victims, depending on what the case is. And then the defendant's out here. Sometimes the defendants testify, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just sit there and yell, "You're a liar." I mean, that's what it's like in here. And just the other week, I mean, not that long ago, when emotions boiled over, should we say, there was a gentleman here at the podium. I can tell you, folks, this is brand new.
Yeah.
This is brand new because I called out today to check, see what happened to the old one. He got so mad at the system, the us, the me, the prosecutor, the judge, whatever, that the podium that was here became toothpicks, just slammed it down and was headed, I guess, toward the judge, toward the bench. And we always have an officer in here, so that didn't work. But the officer tased him. Right here, he's flopping around, you know, like a fish out of water. If you've ever, I mean, that taser works. And it really worked that day, and it saved wherever he was going and whoever was on the bench that day, but it didn't save the podium. But my point to you is that being the city prosecutor was face-to-face combat. And sometimes they'd have attorneys. Maybe that made it better, maybe it made it worse, depending on who their attorney was. But a lot of it, we have a lot of people show up what we call pro se for themselves, and they try to represent themselves. And that takes a lot of patience by the court, by me, to get through that stuff, because most of it's nonsense. But they have their right to their day in court. They want to get up and say why everybody else did something wrong and they're not guilty. So we go through all that. And we don't have a trial on every case. I'm not telling you we've had 42,000 trials, but we've had 42,000 cases go through here since I've been here, thanks to these guys. They're out there doing their job. Okay, so that, to me, and I want you, if you didn't know, there's a big distinction between being a city attorney and representing you guys and being the city prosecutor, being in here, again, representing you guys, but also all the citizens of Paola to try and help them remain safe. Boy, have there been changes in the last 40 years that I've seen. When I came, Mary and I would be coming home maybe from a movie or football game in Lawrence or Manhattan or something, and you couldn't get through the square. You just couldn't get through the square. I mean, that was a thing in Paola, I guess, to drive around the square for hours and hours and hours. Now in Ottawa, we went from the bridge at the north end of town to the bridge at the south end of town, so it kind of got strung out. But in Paola, they just went around in circles. For anybody that grew up in Paola, they know what I'm talking about. And I don't know if it was a different time or what, but we used to have fights on the square. We used to have fights out at the lake. Seems like there was just a lot of fights. Again, I don't know if we don't have that anymore. And I don't know if that's because of different officers, better officers, or just different kids. But as far as I know, we haven't been having brawls on the square recently. And some of the law enforcement techniques have helped with all of that. Body cams, car cams, the cameras. You know, it's pretty hard to come into court and sit there in a straight face under oath and tell the judge you didn't do something when I played the video up here on the big screen that shows you clearly did it. So some of them try it, the judge doesn't go for that, but videos have really changed the prosecution from he said to she said. And we go through that back and forth, and then the judge turns around, flips a coin, and has to make a decision. But so body cams have been a big change. The courtrooms, I already mentioned to you how we've moved around town over the years. I mentioned to you the posse comitatus and in citizens, defendants who wouldn't identify themselves when they were stopped for a simple violation that they were afraid was going to lead to something. They were just caught up in the moment of tyranny, I suppose. The law is not the law. I don't have to tell you who I am, even though I've got a driver's license. Maybe they didn't have a valid driver's license, but it isn't just what you read in the newspaper or what you see on TV. We've lived through some of it right here in Paola, America. Okay, I can't forget, we've talked about the taser here in the courtroom, but I can't forget all of the building protesters. Boy, enforcing the zoning laws that you all, or the councils before you passed, was a real peach. Just handyman here in town, good people, nice people, just wouldn't comply with getting a license. They had to come into City Hall and fill out a form, and I guess, they had to prove their competence. And then they had to get a license, and they had to prove they were competent, and then they had to have insurance. Some of them wouldn't do it. We had to put people that have lived here their whole lives, that have taken care of a lot of the old widows in town for years, fixing up their porch and their screen door, in jail because they wouldn't identify themselves, they wouldn't get a license, they wouldn't get any insurance. I mean, it seems silly to stand here and tell you that we had to do all those things, but we did. If you didn't enforce the law, there's no reason to have the laws. And that, you know, then they all got together and marched around the courthouse. I had a note here to don't forget the building protesters. I mean, they protested, just like there's protesters today about a lot of things, but we lived through that too. I want to close, you'll be glad I'm closing, by thanking the court clerks that have worked for me in addition to their real jobs. I mean, the court clerks have to have one of the worst jobs in town because they work here, they work for the city, but they work in dispatch, but then they work for the chief, then they also work for the judge, and then they babysit me. I mean, if I have those 20 or 30 cases every week, I've got 20 or 30 phone calls to the municipal court clerk. Well, what's this person's last name? Has so-and-so been subpoenaed? I've got to have so-and-so for the trial at 2 o'clock. I've got to have so-and-so for the trial at 3 o'clock. I mean, I'm surprised they even answer the phone when they see it's my number, because there's just so many loose ends that I couldn't do it without the municipal court clerks. And they all know who they are, but there's Amanda, Audra, and right now there's Melissa. And speaking of help, where's Margie? Margie's back there. Margie came to work for me right out of Garnett High School, and she's from Greeley, and we hit it off right away because my mother taught in Greeley when she got out of KU. During the Depression, it was the only, you know, she was lucky to get any job. Phi Beta Kappa, if that means anything to anybody, you know, top student at KU, one of the top students at KU, the only job she gets is in Greeley. But so my mother knew Margie's parents and grandparents, I suppose. But then Margie came and applied for a job, and I hired her on the spot, and she's been with me ever since. And that's how many years?
41.
We're stuck in these 40s. But again, the continuity. Yeah, Mary and I may make 50, but Margie's already made the 40. Okay, let me go over my checklist here. You've already heard enough, I'm sure. But oh. And you know, with all those cases in municipal court and all the officers on one hand and all the defendants on the other, I'm here to tell you, I probably didn't make them all happy all the time. But years ago, as a young attorney, I was fortunate to have a good relationship with one of the older district judges, nobody that's here now. And I was asking him how he did it, how you make decisions, and he said, well, let me tell you, son, if you make them all mad, you know you've done a good job. So I really feel like I must have done a good job also, because I know the officers think I'm too easy on the defendants, and the defendants for sure think I'm too hard on them, putting them in jail. So I've tried to be a fair, just, and equitable prosecutor. Those are just words, but it's also the way I've tried to live my life, and hopefully it shows. Because there's a lot of prosecutors that are really heavy-handed because they are the law. They have the law on their side, and they'll go to bat for the blue, and the blue can't do anything wrong ever. That's not exactly right either. But I made it this far. I've had a lot of support from the city, and I've tried to do a good job for the city. All I could do was the best I knew how, but I was big on respecting not only the officers, but also the defendants. I mean, we all live, most of the defendants in city court, most of these 42,000 people live in Paola. And so I see him at the high school sporting events. I see him at the sale barn. They know where I live. But no, all kidding aside, it's almost like the golden rule. It's pretty simple. Just treat the officers and the defendants the way you would want to be treated, with some respect. And I've been lucky to be able to do that in this courtroom right here for this town. And hopefully it's paid dividends, because we haven't had the fights on the square. We haven't had the fights at the lake. The officers haven't had to take so-and-so down and drag them in or tase them. I mean, that's a really unusual occurrence in the courtroom, no less. So big on the word respect from me toward the citizens, toward the officers, toward the defendants. I call them defendants. I mean, they're not criminals. Yeah, I was looking around and I can't remember prosecuting any of you directly, but you know. Back here, maybe back here is, and then, you know, I'm down 3 generations with some family. I've got grandma and grandpa, I've got mom and dad, and then you get the kids. Some families just frequent the courtroom, I guess. But Mary, my wife Mary, has a cute little expression that I may try to close with here, which is do good things. You know, that's kind of like part on, you know, the golden rule or whatever. Just treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Try to do good things. And that's what I've tried to do for the city. Thank you for allowing me to do it all these years. I've done the best I could. Okay. See, somebody thinks I did a good job.
Yes. I think you can rest easy and enjoy this next season of your life, Lee, knowing you did well.
I will with these guys right here.
Yeah, maybe do it easy. Kids make it easy. All right.
Let's get back to.
Yeah, go ahead. It's not
the audit next, so you might want to run. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you all for coming. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No, thanks.
Oh,
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Don't take this wrong, but I'm trading you for them.
that's
Good trade.
Congratulations, Lee. Thanks, Lee. Appreciate it.
Now Harold's gonna be offended.
sorry, Carol. Look at you.
All right. Now we'll move to the consent agenda. Anyone on the council have a question or comment on the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented and authorize the mayor to.
I'll second.
McMahon.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Shields.
Aye.
All right, motion passed. Any comments from the public this evening? Anything not on the agenda? Just Harold and Brian, so. All right, seeing none. He's been to city court, by the way. All right. He didn't notice you, I guess. I mean, he was trying to find someone that's been to city court.
You were the indirect person. That's what you, yeah, indirectly.
Yeah. All right, new business, the 2025 audit.
Come on up, Harold.
Okay, you said we'll have a copy of the audit with you, okay? Turn past the table of contents, the independent audit report. As I usually start out telling you, basically your audit's done in accordance with what we call the Kansas Municipal Audit Accounting Guide, which is a statutory basis by county. And it's not generally accepted accounting principles, but your report is a matter of public record. So we have to say at the beginning that you're not in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. That's what the second paragraph is telling you. Third paragraph is telling you, it says, however, you are in accordance with the Kansas Municipal Audit Guide. And we feel that the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with that Kansas Municipal Audit Guide. Management's responsibility for financial statements is to prepare the financial statements and have a fair presentation of those financial statements. Our responsibility is to exercise professional judgment while doing the audit, identify and assess risk material statements, obtain an understanding of the internal controls, evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting principles used, and conclude in our judgment that there are no issues with the going concern as far as the city goes. Now, with this set of financial statements up front is basically a summary showing all the funds. The details back in the back, that's supplemental information, and under supplemental information, we again tell you that we feel that your financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with the Kansas Municipal Audit Guide. Also back in the back is a presentation of the previous year for comparison purposes, and we're telling you that that comparison we do feel is also fairly stated in accordance with the Kansas Municipal Audit Guide. So if we turn to page 4 and 5, we actually get to see what I was talking about, a summary form. It shows all of the funds, beginning unencumbered cash, receipts, expenditures, non-encumbered cash. And then we add back all the payables to get back to what the actual cash balance is. So it's kind of a reconciling process and also showing all of the funds that you have. Based on that, the general fund is up about 230,000 compared to what it was the year before. Your ad valorem taxes are a part of that. They're up 175,000. Your fees were up about 74,000. Now your expenses were also up, but not as enough to offset the fact that you had a gain or income this year in the general fund. And expense wise, the police salaries and the street salaries were up. Shouldn't be any surprise to you because you hired additional people in those positions. So that's why those particular expenses are up. Employee benefits is up 176,000 compared to the year before. And it's interesting on it because expenses dropped 147 of that. That's what makes up that difference. So basically, anything from some of the insurance costs to even the capers compared to the year before was down a little bit. So all of those resulted in the fact that the employee benefit went up overall. Stormwater management, and I'm just talking about the big ones here that have had the biggest change. Most of them didn't have that significant change. But on stormwater, it was up $73,700. It's mostly due to the fact that the construction that was done the year before didn't have to be done this year, so therefore the expenses went down. Your family aquatic center, aquatic center is up 66,000, and that's mostly due to the fact that sales taxes were about that much over the year before. COVID isn't a major change, but just bringing up COVID from the standpoint that as you finally wind down on that, you weren't subject to what we call a single audit this year, which means that we would have to do a bunch of testing on the federal grants that you had. But number one, you're down in terms of grants, and number two, they went up in terms of when you have to have an audit done for grants. And the result is that we got a statutory basis financial statements, but we didn't have to do a single audit in accordance with that. Which is the same as what last year was. Your bond issue, it didn't change much, but the reason it didn't change much is because basically he had finished up on the expenses for the dam and on the pool, but you also got a reimbursement for what expenses you did have this year. So the net effect is that it almost washed out. I think it's about $7,000 change is all that was. Bond interest is normally a big fund, but it's basically it's a normal payment of your interest in bond payments, and didn't really change all that much. Equipment replacement is down. You had the purchase of the police cars in there this year. That's part of the reason it's down. Capital projects fund, sales tax was down slightly, but your transfers were up. So basically that ended up actually increasing. There's also the place where you're paid off your fire truck at. So that was one of the expenses in it. Next page is your what we call your business funds. Basically sewer, water, health and sanitation. On those, the first two, the water services and the water utility, The revenues were up slightly, but not a great amount, and expenses were also up some, in most categories. But the end result was is they both increased overall. Um, Health and sanitation stayed pretty much, even with where it was the year before. Your water treatment plant, the reason it's up so much is that's where that bond went that you passed. The 1,050,000, so it's in there and that's the reason it's up. And water treatment plant, actually increased some because there was no big equipment purchases this year compared to the prior years. So that kind of gives you in a nutshell what's happened as far as the funds go, as far as big changes go. After that, you have footnotes. I usually don't spend too much time on those, except to tell you that on page 10, we did one of the statutory things is to check cash and make sure that's adequately secured, and we did that. You have a change coming from what this was to what it'll be next year, because now the state's kind of controlling that. They're a little leery about it, and I'm a little leery about it. I don't know how the state's gonna figure this out. Basically, they're taking control of whether to see whether you have your depository securities correct or not. I guess our responsibility is to see that the state does what they're supposed to do, so we'll see how all that plays out. On long-term debt, just to bring up there, it shows the fact that you had the 1,050,000, the new bond. Also shows you paid off 1,100,000. And then your capital leases, like I said, the fire truck was paid off. The copiers, you just have a couple of years left. And the radios you paid off. So that's good, going in the right direction there for that stuff. After that, page 15, again, I'm just touching on highlights. And the only reason I do this one is because if you have a chance to read these financial statements, you're gonna wonder about under note K, the second to last paragraph. It talks about the city's proportionate share of the papers is $1,387,881, and for the KPNF, it's $2,288,421. That's their way of spreading out the liability. The state doesn't want to show all of it on their books, so they kind of spread it out to everybody else. Even though they're the ones that you give the money to, and they're the ones that have to make the payments when people retire. So it's a lot of computation goes in that particular one. They have to basically take a person, determine how long they're gonna be around to pay out or pay in, and then how long they're gonna be after retirement to pay out, and then come up with basically a number that's amortized back to the present. So quite a process. And the fact you'll never really ever pay that amount exactly. I mean, you'll never come to that exactly. And it would be over years anyway, not within the next year. Page 19, one of the things we do statutory wise is see that you're don't have any budget violations, and you don't, as long as you got a bracket or a zero in that last column. That's what you're looking for, and that's what the state's looking for. We didn't have any other statutory violations so basically you're clean on that bill of health. The only other thing I'm gonna do now is go general fund a little bit, and it starts on page 20. Just to show you that, total taxes, 4,000,007 compared to 4,000,005 the year before, but you're well over budget, 464,000. In fact, on most all the categories that you have here, you are over budget, except for the fines, forfeitures, and penalties. That's the only one where you had actually budgeted a higher number, and the results didn't come in with that. And of course, use of money, you're way over budget because of investments and interest of 277,000 compared to just a budget of 20,000. Expense wise, admin is up slightly, but still way under budget compared to the previous year. The police department, same way. It's up over last year, but it's under budget by 81,000. Fire department, the same. It's under budget by 118,000. Municipal court was under by almost 40,000. Street development was under by about 23,000. Parks and Recreation was under by about 16. Cemetery was under by 4,000. Community Development was under by 34,000. So net result was is that your total expenditures were over last year. They went from a little over 6 million compared to 5,600,000 the year before. But they were under the budget of 6,488,000 by 408,000 to $828. So they're good to go there. General fund was in good shape. Last but not least, so I don't really cover the other funds too much because I've already talked about them. But one of the things I do look at, starting on page 49, 50, 51, and 52, 53. These are more business orientated. They still get some help. I either get transfers in, they get this and that, but for the most part, they're relying on the charges that they make. And as a business, one of the things you want to do is have kind of a surplus at the year end that at least equals about 3 months of your expenditures, assuming that they're going to be about the same as next year. And in each case, the sewer service, the water utility, the that's the water utility, health and sanitation, water treatment fund, all had funds left over that were in excess of what 3 months of expenditures would be if they were the same as what they were last year. The only one that came close was health and sanitation. That's one of your smaller funds to use anyway. So overall, a good audit, good communication with the people and the help that they gave me in order to get this done. And glad to work with them.
Anybody have any questions for Harold? Thanks for all your work on this, Harold.
Thank you.
Does anybody have a motion, want to make a motion?
I move to approve the 2025 audit report from Agler and Gattert.
I'll second the motion, but I did want a couple questions of Harold before we go forward further.
Okay.
This one.
Yep.
And the report shows up here in June. Is that normal usually, Harold?
Well, we had a little, normally I get it to you in April, but,
Okay.
the big cause of things not being quite as normal, was I had a number of CPE courses I was trying to take in order to get up on AI. And so I was having to travel here, there, and that slowed me up on getting this done.
Okay,
Don't anticipate that being the case next year.
okay. I've watched Harold give audits for not 42 years, but 5 years. With the county, and I was there and I was able to send in on his audits and also my department participated in the audience and whether it be a little better than I would have liked to seen it, always been very professional in broad audits forth. So, and this council member, I probably speak for the council and staff, very, very, very much appreciate that end of it. So,
Right. Josh made a motion to approve.
I second it.
JR seconded it.
Okay, McMahon,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Shields.
Aye.
All right, motion passed. Thank you, Harold.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your insight, JR.
I'm one of the few people who actually go through this, mark it up and read it and everything else. So I'm probably one of the few people that I read it and I mark it up and I look at it and I go back and forth. It's something I enjoy doing.
Well,
But I'm not.
my contact number is on that, at the report page, so you give me a call if you have a question.
All right, well, anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have, consider approving resolution number 2026-006.
We just do this every year.
Just an annual thing. And that's so they don't have to basically put a value on
Everything.
every
Yeah.
water line, every sewer line, every street. That's basically what it is. So if anybody doesn't have questions on that, Stephanie, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mayor, motion to approve. Resolution 2026-006 waiving conformance to certain provisions of generally accepted accounting principles, or GAAP.
Second,
McMahon.
Aye.
Brown.
aye,
Shields.
Aye.
All right, motion passed. Okay, next we have dangerous structure at 3 North Walnut Street that we kind of started talking about last week.
Yep, so 3 North Walnut Street, November of last year, was involved in a house fire that literally destroyed the inside of the house. Fire traveled through all the walls, ceilings, floor. I've been in contact with the homeowner off and on, but still fairly regularly up until a couple months ago, as far as his plans to demolish the house. And then a few months ago, stopped hearing from him, had several emails gone unanswered, and had told him that we would be starting the construction process. So there was an informal notice of this as required. And I still haven't received any communication even after that. The official notice has been posted to the house. Inspector Buckles and I have made inspections on this house. His inspections have noted that the entire house appears to be structurally unsound due to extensive fire damage to structural members throughout the house. There's multiple holes in the floor. The floor in the living room is completely collapsed. The house is open to the elements and animals. Gutters are falling off the house, allowing water to collect around the foundation. Utilities have been disconnected from the house due to the fire. Walls are uncovered and, for lack of better terms, not even there. There's some charred studs left, but rafters, everything else is just charred wood. Walls, no. Wires are exposed throughout the house. Most of the windows are either broken or removed completely and only have plywood covering the holes. And the water, gas, and HVAC lines throughout the house have been compromised from the fire. The inside, there's a few pictures included with your memo to give you an idea of the extent of the damage on the inside of the house. But no work has been done since the fire to clean anything out, to have an engineer come in. The staff would ask the council to approve resolution 2026-007 to set a public hearing to give the owner of the property a chance to speak to the effect of why the property shouldn't be considered dangerous structure. That date, because of the notification requirements of Kansas statutes, would have to be August 11th. This has to be posted in the paper a month ahead of that date. The staff's recommendation would be approval of the resolution.
Anyone have any questions for Mitch? The pictures kind of speak for themselves.
So if you don't hear from the owner, you'll automatically put it out to bid, to tear it down,
So
tear the house down.
we'll have this public hearing. If the owner doesn't show up at the public hearing is when council will vote to,
These are demolished.
yeah,
Demolish.
That's when the final decision will be made to prepare or demolish the house. At that point, the owner has, I believe it's 30 days, and I actually think council sets that time frame to come in, get a demolition permit, and actually take care of it himself. And then at that point, we would come back if he hasn't demolished it at that point. For council to direct staff to open it up for bids to launch.
It's a lengthy but necessary process that we have to go through.
Yes, yes.
Gotta give the property owner all possible avenues to.
Which we should.
And I have left messages with him as well. I've called, I've tried.
Have they left town?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know where his current mailing address, according to the county, is still this address, so I don't have any updated information for him.
Do you think we should hang up bird deterrents so the buzzards don't move in?
Oh, yeah.
Don't
They have
think
to go
so.
somewhere.
And
That time of year.
The nice thing about this is that it is wide open, on the inside, so there's not really anywhere for them to nest.
Don't fix it.
So,
Hey, Mitch, you probably said it during your presentation. When was the fire or approximately
at the beginning, I think second week of November
of last?
of last year.
All right, thanks.
I'm glad you finally mowed the yard.
That's just another thing we gotta wait. Give them their
Mhm.
due notice on, but yes. I was glad to see it move.
Any other questions for Mitch?
No, it looks like just initial boarding it up. Nobody's been there ever since.
Mhm. There a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 2026-007, setting the public hearing to be held on August 11th, 2026 at 6 p.m. at the Paola Justice Center, 805 North Pearl Street, Paola, Kansas, 607.
I'll second that motion.
McMahon.
Aye.
Brown.
I,
Shields.
Aye.
All right, motion passed. Staff reports, Chief Corbin?
Only one thing, Officer Rodriguez, is now out on her own, she's completed the FTO process, received all the training, and she's ecstatic to not have a rider.
Mitch?
We are up to 730 permits now.
For this year,
For this year,
okay?
for the first 5 months of the year.
Because more roofs.
Yes.
That's a third more on.
To put it into
Usually do.
perspective, we finished last year in December with 540 permits.
Mhm.
So we had 450 permits just last month. And we've had 130 permits in the last week, so we're looking at about 500 permits just for the month of June. So. Every house in town just about has to get a roof, so.
Oh,
51 in May, and we've got, you're expecting another 5 in June.
so that's new, that's, the roofs are counting into that.
Yes,
Okay.
the roofs are 90% of the permits, yes. So yes, it is gonna be, we've been swamped, we're trying to just stay above water right now. Everybody's doing their best.
It'll be interesting to see what it does to our assessed valuation for the
Yes.
county.
Yes.
It's gonna be interesting.
Mhm. And the county is going through Paola,
Mhm.
this year for their evaluations, so. Just kind of depends on when exactly they go through, which ones have been done. I think we have around 2,000 roofs in town. So, 500 of them so far have been redone just from the storm, plus the other ones that were redone before and are getting redone again. So we still got a long ways to go, but hoping maybe after June, that July, August, maybe start to taper off a little bit, just for our sake.
Yeah.
They have to come in and get a permit and pay money,
$100 every roof.
okay?
Yep.
So you know which ones are gonna be done. I mean, you know how many roofs are gonna be done,
Mhm.
okay?
Yep. And there's been several that have been working without permits, those permit fees are doubled. Trevor's still been driving around all day. So
Yeah,
doing about 30 roof inspections a day. And in between that, catching ones that are working without a permit or without a license. So. We don't have anything on the agenda for planning commission so far, so I believe we'll have a meeting this month. Believe we'll have some stuff next month So I got,
All right, Randy?
Bruce said he's sorry he's not here, he's in Wisconsin. But he wanted me to share that they had a great turnout at their open house this last weekend. They gave out over 200 hamburgers and over 300 hot dogs. And over 160 raffle tickets were, collected. And they gave out hats, coins, shirts, smoke alarms, and then one child won the, take a fire truck to school day. So
Mhm.
that was exciting.
Yeah.
No, but in all fairness, I know many staff went, it was a great experience. They did a great job doing examples. They had rappelling from the roof, they had extrication, and they just kept it going. They had tours. It was a really fun time. So they did a great job.
Mitch got sprayed.
Mitch, poor Mitch. Mitch.
You're still recovering.
it was for the kids.
Yeah.
I did not spray him with the hose. Oh, we'll do that.
You know there was an option.
I know, I didn't know. I left when that was happening. But that is all I have to share.
Okay,
I don't have any.
nothing? All right, on to council, Jared.
Again, congratulate city staff and also the residents of Paola, you know, for being patient on some of this stuff that we got going through. My neighborhood up there is, you know, small percentage of the city, and as we walk around, we think we average 2 roofs a week. I mean, not a week, but a day. So there is just a lot of roofers, and I know how hard it is to keep up, and they show up, and it's amazing how fast that they can do a roof and move on. So thank you, Mitch, for keeping up on that. Also, as I drive around and I look at I'm an infrastructure guy, and I make no apologies for that. Boy, I just started seeing some really nice improvements to some of our infrastructure. Drove through Wallace Park and was able to spend a little time there, and we drove through, and you know, I didn't get a chance to look at the pickleball, but it looks nice. Some of the old stuff's being removed, and we're repurposing things, and I know that city manager has a vision for that. But it is starting to shape up. It is really starting to look nice when it's all said and done. So with that, and then I always go over, I'm amazed, Chief Corbin, on how much you guys do it's steady work, let's put it that way. So anyway, with that, but I just want to touch on Wallace Park, because I know that there's been a tremendous commitment of city funds down over there over the years, and it's starting to really look nice. So, and again, Councilman Josh and Mayor, I thought y'all did a good job with Mr. Tatweiler.
Try to learn how to read a little better next time.
That's all I had.
Okay,
I'm done.
well, your turn.
I think, really fun to see, everybody honor at Weller tonight. Appreciate everybody's efforts on that. And I know that all these roofs are a lot of work for staff. And I know that they're, like, I know some people get frustrated with, even having to get a permit and things like that, but I think it's, really well done, and it's run as smooth as it possibly can. You guys are doing a tremendous amount of work getting it done. I appreciate all that. I know that, I have not heard one complaint on it. So thank you. I figured that they're just being possible for that not to happen.
Except for the guys that hadn't gotten a permit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure they don't like it. Thank you for all that, and let's see. I think that's all I had, but I wanted to give some kudos to the pool staff. Just heard really good things about the pool and how well it is, how good it is this year, and how well things are running, and the staff and anything. So thank you to them for making that a good process.
I just want to thank the Public Works for the how nice the park square looks, and the fountain and the flowers on the corners, getting ready for several different shows that are coming up. It looks real nice.
All right. Just thank thanks to the staff again for, I know it's been like hit the ground running since the storm came. You know, in the very beginning with the solicitor permits and all that stuff, and like I told Randy, you know, sometimes in these situations, we can pull resources from neighboring communities, but they're all doing the same thing. So we have done probably 3-4 times the work with the same amount of people, so well done, everybody. And I think the square looks great too. It's fun to go by and see everybody, especially on Sunday nights. I don't know if it's because everybody wants ice cream on Sunday nights like we do, but the fountain's there, you know, people are just spending time on the square because they go get something and then walk over, so it's just neat to see it vibrant and alive, and much like Wallace Park. I know when I started in here, Wallace Park was kind of dead, and it's coming back to life, which is exciting, so thanks to everybody for their part. And that is all I have. If someone wants to motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
McMinn.
Aye.
Brown. Shields.
aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.